I'm talking today with Maggie McKay and Chris Hayward, who are going to be joining us for a tree panel on Thursday, January 21st, starting at 7 o'clock, live on Zoom and on our YouTube and Facebook channels. You may have seen Maggie's letter recently in the Sun, and Maggie came and you approached me, I think just before that letter actually got published, and I'm so excited that we can do this program together. For folks who didn't see the letter, Maggie, can you tell us a little bit, kind of give us the executive summary of your passion for trees and what you were sharing in that letter?
Yeah. So in recent years, I've gotten interested in climate issues and came across some articles that were talking about the importance of trees for being able to suck in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and then store it, create wood and leaves and everything, and store it. And then the importance of mature trees in particular. So I wrote this letter to try to get some of that across, and that's just one of the incredible things. As I was doing the research, it was like, there's research showing that they can even, they lower crime rates in a neighborhood, and they raise property values in a neighborhood and help with flooding and all these amazing things. So I wanted to see if other people in Quincy wanted to work on tree stuff as well to help preserve the trees and to help support Chris's work as tree warden. So that's why I wrote that letter, and yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you did, and that you then reached out to me and have really done the legwork to bring Chris and our two other guests, Pam Templer and
Aaron Lerman.
Aaron Lerman, yeah. So Aaron Lerman and Pam Templer to join us for this panel. And I know that you're doing this, you're very active with the Quincy Climate Action Network, and so this is a QCAN co-sponsored event. And we have Chris joining us. You mentioned Chris is the new tree warden for the city of Quincy. So Chris, welcome to Quincy.
Thank you very much.
You helping care for our trees. I'm psyched to have you here, and great to introduce you to the city today.
Thank you very much. Obviously 2020 has been a really tough year. I figured by now, a year into the job, that I know a lot of people in the city. But, when you're walking around with a mask on your face and nobody really knows who you are, and you got to stay 6 feet, 10 feet away, it's like, geez, I'm not going to get to know anybody. So I kind of really enjoy getting out and educating the public and, letting them know what a tree warden does. When I first got the job 15 years ago up in Watertown, I didn't even know what a tree warden was. I thought it was
telling me that every town and city in the Commonwealth is required to have a tree warden.
Yes, under the Chapter 87 of the Massachusetts General Laws. Yeah,
that is pretty awesome. So, what do tree wardens do? Like, you are you the Lorax? Are you the Quincy's Lorax? What is it that you're up to?
Something like that. Yeah, exactly. So I'm basically the caregiver, the keeper of the trees, the publicly owned trees of the city. So we plant trees.
That's a really important distinction. Publicly owned trees are different than the wild trees, although I assume some of the wild trees are also publicly owned, but they're very different from a tree in a backyard or something.
Right. So under Chapter 87, I'm governed, and that law allows me to, create certain policies, there's regulations, there's that law to protect street trees. So it's trees within 20 feet of the right-of-way. So if you have a tree out in the middle of a park, that law doesn't necessarily cover that, but then I'm given that authority through the mayor, the city council, to make sure that those trees are maintained appropriately. So there's a law for one thing, and then there's a policy for others. We also have a private tree ordinance in the city of Quincy that says if you're going to be taking down any trees over 8 inches in diameter as part of a development project, redevelopment project, then you have to return species of trees back to the property and work through me to get that done, so that we're keeping our tree canopy in place. Granted, if you're taking down something over 8 inches, say 24 inches, we're not going to be able to plant a big tree like that, but we can get other trees in place so that maybe someday we can equal the amount of canopy that we're losing. But basically, that's what I am. I have to make sure that the trees are safe for the public. Public safety is my number one concern. So we don't want to have tree branches falling out and just a light wind, and I have to make sure of that.
I'm glad you're doing that. My wife was driving one day and a tree branch fell and smashed the front windshield of our car. That was scary. So yeah.
Quite scary. And I've been part of many things like that. And it is. And when you come upon those people, they're shocked. And the first thing is, why don't you cut down all the trees? Because now I'm afraid.
Cut them all down and pave everything. Right. It'd be so much
Yeah,
easier.
just pave it all. Pave it all. But there are many reasons why we have these street trees. They provide us many benefits that we'll get into in this panel discussion. But there's so many things that people aren't thinking about. A street tree is, to me, as the tree warden and the certified arborist for the city, a street tree is just as important as a utility pole, just as important as a fire hydrant, as a catch basin. But even more than that, because it does more than just that one thing that those other items are specifically known to do. So it's very important to make sure that our urban forest is healthy and providing us the benefits that we need, because if we didn't have it, we'd know we didn't have it. We'd be in trouble.
Well, thank you. I know that's super important. I'm really looking forward to you and our other guests sharing kind of this value and the work that you're doing to preserve and care for these trees. I mean, Maggie, your letter really kind of impressed the great historical importance. You know, I loved the analogy of, you know, what if I told you we had this amazing machine that's been preserved for over 200 years and what an efficient job it does. And that's what these trees are doing. I mean, they really are incredible organisms that we're dependent upon for quality of life. So, and just life, period, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The more I learn about them, and I don't know that much, but just, you know, it just seems like they're just incredible, complex machines that can just do so much for us, and that we haven't been able to reproduce technologically. Like, if people are trying to build artificial trees, but they can do some of the things that trees can do, but they can't do all of the things that trees can do. So I feel like, you know, if we really saw these trees, if we had to buy these trees, like machines that did all these things, we wouldn't be able to afford it. So I was just thinking, like, you know, we need to really preserve the healthy trees that we have, and you know, keep growing them. So
yeah, well, that's yeah, I think you made that point very well. And I, you know, helping everybody really speak and be advocates for trees is certainly one of the benefits that I hope will come away from this event that we're doing together. I wonder, on a personal side, I think the trees are also gorgeous. I'm actually looking, and you can't see it because it's on the other side of the lens here, but I have, you know, a photograph of a tree on the wall here. I find trees are just amazing, you know, organisms as well. And I wonder if, you know, we probably won't have time to talk about this in the panel, but if both of you might share if you have any favorite places to enjoy and appreciate trees here in the city of Quincy.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. I haven't nailed down one spot yet, or one grove of trees, or even in a particular tree, because I'm amazed at some of the trees that I'm seeing around the city. Some of these trees are unbelievably beautiful. Sometime back, you know, 150 plus years ago, somebody had a plan in Quincy, and they planted red oaks around this city that have become monsters. And they're just, every time I come upon one, I'm just amazed at, wow, I don't think the public realizes, you know, the assets that these are, that how important they are. So I haven't really nailed down one spot, but there are many beautiful locations around the city.
That's great. Maggie, do you have any spots that you find yourself turning to? I don't like playing favorites, so I'm certainly not asking for that. But do you have any spots that really have spoken to you that you'd like to share?
Well, my next door neighbor in the backyard has this huge catalpa tree, and it is just enormous. And my son and I really just love seeing it change all through the seasons. And one time I went outside, I heard this strange sound. I looked up, there was a turkey at the very top of the tree as well. I had no idea that turkeys even got that high or could get that high, but it was just there. And then I watched it like sail down. It was so cool. But yeah, and you really do, like, when you lose trees, you really feel the loss of them. Because I know on a street near me, on Willett Street, there's an older man who would sit outside under the tree. He put some like stuffed animals in the tree branches, and he would be just like working on making bracelets and stuff out of things. He had used to work in the schools, and he would just chat with people, like, you know, as they went by. And that tree came down, I think, for some road work, and he's just not there anymore because it's just too hot in the summertime. So I feel that loss, and it, you know, the street is hotter, so, and kind of less beautiful. So yeah, so there's just like just things can't really put a price on, or it's just the kind of feeling of the neighborhood as well.
I know that we have a lot of people who really appreciate spending time under the trees here at the library, and lots of people look at the architecture of the library and really appreciate it because it's a gorgeous building and a great tradition. Henry Hobson Richardson, who was the architect, was close friends with Frederick Law Olmsted, who designed the grounds, and just and I'm not sure if he was involved with the red oaks being planted all over the city, but there's certainly a rich history of landscape architecture, of really caring about that living environment, and trees are one of the most important elements of that environment. So it's really exciting to think about. Not only are we appreciating the shade and all the memories that they kind of help us really create, because whether it's the concerts where people are enjoying some shade underneath the summer in the summertime, while appreciating just that heat relief, or ducking under it because there's been a rainstorm, and finding there's just these great physical comforts beyond just clearing the air and fixing taking the carbon out of the atmosphere for us. And just the beauty of the city. I think both of you speaking of just the times that we spent with trees is it's really important to reflect on. And maybe in these times when we can't spend as much time indoors with each other, we can spend some extra time. Maybe we can go on some walks with each other. We can spend some time appreciating outside, because it's much easier to distance if we do it underneath a tree.
Yeah,
a big a tree, a big tree trunk between us. It seems like a good way to be safe. So.
That's right.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with folks? I know this is going to be a super exciting program, and I know our other two guests are going to bring a whole bunch to it too. I'm sure the time is just going to fly by. But is there anything else that you want to say just right now when we have the opportunity to encourage people to come out and learn more about trees and what they can do to be supportive and appreciate these amazing members of our city?
If you have the opportunity to get out before this meeting and walk around the city, take a look at some of the trees around the city. Get outside of your neighborhood. Go to another neighborhood maybe you haven't seen. Park your car somewhere. Take a little walk around and see exactly what we're looking at for the forest in our city. It's definitely a prize. There's no question about it. There are many people that I know that I work in my little surrounding. When I tell them about the things that I see here in Quincy, they never picture that in their mind. So get out there and take a look around. It'll make the meeting a bunch more interesting if there's a bunch of people out there that have a new appreciation for what we've got.
No, I think that's a great idea. And the other two panelists will help us learn more about trees and their biology and their importance for the climate, and then also how to maybe get a free tree, because there are a couple neighborhoods in Quincy where the state is trying to increase the canopy. And so you can get a totally free tree in those neighborhoods, and they'll come in and plant it for you and everything. So it couldn't be easier. So we'll learn about that as well.
The beautiful thing about that state program is those trees can be planted in your yard as well.
Yeah.
Where maybe the city will eventually work towards a program like that, where we can take our street trees and plant them in your yard, which is a much better place for a tree, obviously, and still the streets would be lined and we'd have that benefit. But the state's program right now will actually allow you to plant them around your yard. You work with Aaron. Aaron's a good guy. He'll definitely attract some folks to this meeting.
That is a really great tip to know, because I'm used to free tree programs for to plant in that parking right by the street, but we have parts of the city where we just need to increase trees, and so yeah, everybody should come. Just even if they don't live in one of those places, maybe they'll meet somebody. That's really exciting, and it can make a beautiful city even more beautiful. I wonder too, Chris, with your expertise, if people have images of trees, if they want to take pictures of trees as they're on these walks about, do you think it would be possible, and maybe they want to do this, I don't know if we'll have time during the program, but they could share if they have questions about like how to care for a tree, or even just what kind of tree it is. I know I look at a lot of trees, and I'm not an expert. I'm not a botanist. I don't know the names of these trees, but I certainly appreciate them. I don't know if I could identify a catalpa. I've heard that name before, but I'd have to go back up and look and remind myself.
They have enormous, I don't know about trees either, but I looked it up. They have enormous heart-shaped leaves, like really big and long spots.
Yeah. So if there's questions, that would be a great thing for people to bring to this program, just to learn more about the trees that are important to them.
Yeah, I can help as much as possible. A little difficult in the wintertime looking at a photograph and trying to identify a tree, but that's how, being part of it as a certified arborist, that was one of the parts of my exam. I had to identify trees by pictures, so we can do it, but But in the springtime, when the leaves start popping, it's a lot easier.
Maybe we can do another program this spring when we get the leaves back too.
Perfect.
One of appreciating the seasons is super important. So.
Yeah.
Maggie, Chris, thank you so much for your time. I'm really looking forward to this program. It's going to be great. I hope everybody comes out and joins us.
Well, thank you for inviting me in to be part of it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I hope you've enjoyed my conversation just now with Chris Hayward, Quincy's tree warden, and Maggie McKee from Quincy Climate Action Network. They will be joining Aaron Lerman, a DCR urban forester, and Pam Templer, a forestry researcher at BU, Boston University, for a program all about trees, happening live here on the library's Zoom platform on Thursday, January 21st at 7 o'clock. It will also be live streamed on our YouTube and Facebook channels, and I look forward to seeing you there.